I want to ask you what kind of industry events you have in the countries that you're from that are more on the business and networking side. Do you have such events? Like, for example, events that will maybe encourage co-productions or maybe the development of your local industry, but also have international experts.
Yes. For example, this is the Trend of Tbilisi, International Documentary Festival. Beside the festival, there's a mentorship program, film mentoring program, which is almost 3 months, like intensive program with the international mentors and participants from the South Caucasus, also from Central Asia, are working with the international mentor to develop their project, documentary film projects in a different stage of development. And after this mentoring, we also have pitching forum. We invite like almost like head of very, international, I don't know, different companies, organizations, head of the festivals. And these participants, they pitch their project in front of these people, and yet there are chances that they have any co-production after this pitching forum, or find any additional support from, I don't know, other organizations abroad. Yeah.
Let's go. So that's Georgia. How about Armenia and Azerbaijan? Do you have something like that? That's okay. Now, if you have industry events in your country that would touch more about like maybe on the business side of the film and networking, that would encourage maybe the local film production, co-production, or things like that. No?
Well, we have this Golden Antibot Festival, during which there might be some, I'm not that much involved in that, but I know that some things are happening. But it's, I believe it's mostly during the days of the festival when they kind of try to gather everyone and invite some guest speakers. And but I'm not very much aware if they do this kind of workshops or not. But there have been several, and they continue to be several, like very rarely some workshops are being held, like from France, for example. They were coming and doing some workshops, but not concentrated mostly on industry, but they were giving the opportunity to somehow like find the producers and how to work. So I also did my like one and only feature-length documentary in production, in co-production with France. And yes, it was just this, they created this environment where you could work on the script, and for example, they invited guests from France, producers whom they would also select you, and also you would select them, and kind of, in my case, it really worked out. And not everyone like continued working, but still they gave the possibility to do that. And yes, I don't know, some things are changing in our film center. Before, it was not a very cool place, I believe, but now some people changed, and maybe they really try to make difference and try to change the film industry itself. And yeah, several new, maybe feature films mostly, but yeah, several things like independently started to appear. Not maybe very active in documentary filmmaking, but still, I don't know, some things are slowly changing.
So doesn't, like, from what you told me, those events that you have in your country, do they meet the needs of your local industry?
Not really.
Yeah, maybe not really, because even like if you're in the field, you don't feel ever involved. I mean, not because you are waiting somebody to invite you, but it's like something you don't understand. You kind of can't find the places how to fit in into something that is happening, because it's kind of like something established that you don't know. I don't know. You should know this person like to go. I have that feeling mostly, and
Yeah. I cannot say like a lot. Maybe Imam like would know better than me like what's going on. But in my case, I don't think that we even have industry. I mean, like industry, like it's just a big word for what we have back in Azerbaijan.
Okay.
Like in documentary,
Yes.
has started very recently. If we talk about documentary making, so it has started very recently. People just started to think, oh, you can make this actually, and mostly they go out to actually get, because inside there is no funding, there's no place that like not the film Azerbaijan, like the government do not fund these independent people. And if they Ministry of the Culture, yes, and if they found someone and it should be in their terms, most of the time they choose the topic.
Yeah,
they
with what you have
they
always the
manipulate the
problem.
topic, yes, and most of the people that I know, like from this industry, that they don't choose to work with, ministry and whatever, with government at all. So there's no option inside, so they gotta go out, seek for, in Georgia maybe, let's say if I had chance to even go to Yerevan maybe, I don't know, like, but there are some initiatives that they, bring some, let's say, workshops,
Yeah.
like for example, Tokubak, I told you, workshops, and like for like with newcomers, emerging like filmmakers. So that's it. And another thing that even there is a group of people that they know what to do. They're not really open to newcomers. Actually, I've never felt like I'm welcomed, basically,
Yeah,
and I
it's
don't know
funny.
where to fit myself, because it's just. I'm in the didn't go to school or something, but I'm trying to do something, and the most help I've got, they were my personal friends that they are pushing me. Oh, you gotta do, and they're filmmakers. Thanks God that they push me. But there's no group of people that say, okay, we gotta help newcomers, because no one cares actually, and everyone just keeps everything to themselves. I can't understand, but I don't think that it's the way of it should be, right? I don't know. Yeah.
And also, yes, these productions, like, because when you said like they are mostly want to work, for example, abroad, but even in my case, when I had the French production, so the main demand was so that I had an Armenian production also, which I couldn't find.
Yeah.
I mean, not
exactly.
only like there were like I had very limited options, and to whom I categorically didn't work because I kind of didn't find that I want to somehow be connected with them.
Yeah.
So I actually it was good because my DOP was from Georgia. So I asked them if that is possible to have a production from the region and not from Armenia, because I really struggled a lot, to know where to find those people who are who can legally be your producers and with whom you won't be any kind of conflict of interest, or who would not invite you and talk only about money, about which you have no idea, but the main hanging question of how much money we will get out of your money. If we won't get, then we are not interested. That's what
I forgot to mention that during this pitching session, there are 3 winners after the sessions, and they receive cash prize, different amounts of the cash prize based on the development stage, and this is something which is like a different source of financial support except the National Film Center, and it's not supported by the local institution. Mostly it is some from somewhere else. I mean, international funds.
I'd like to say, for example, in some cases you can open your organization. It's good, then you can apply.
Yeah, but I
But I would
understand
like,
that, but I
would like
don't
to
feel like
say-
I can do that. I mean, there are certain people who studied and stuff. I would be interested,
We
but I
have
don't
so
have the
many
skills.
studied people in producing, so people.
Yeah, that's the
doing
problem.
it.
People start to produce their own film, and you gotta be 5 people at the same time to produce, to be producer, to be a director, to be a
And when you're doing a big thing, it's hard.
It
When you
doesn't
work
work.
like this short documentaries, of course I do. I do my edit, and it's pleasant for me. But in a bigger sense, I totally don't understand how to contact, for example, festivals. I don't know how to do that. And I need to learn, because if I want to be a professional in that, I would somehow want to know how to do that. But I don't. I mean, I know as much as I know. So it's not nothing in a professional level. So I would feel confident to have my own production and also to support some other people who need that. I don't feel like I'm the right
I would like to say that, for example, in framework of Golden Apricot, they have traditionally industry such programs. It's called GAIF Pro, and they have, and it's regional. So Armenia, Georgia, and many Georgians. Pitching and the market, work in progress, and for emerging filmmakers. And few years ago, there was Armenia-Turkey Film Platform, and it was looked like training, and then some project received prizes. So I think in the framework of Golden Apricot, and for example, Eurasia Doc. Yes,
That's what I know, yeah.
yeah. They organize the program during Golden Apricot 2. So they come because it's a give possibility to meet more people, to see films. So I think yes, we have industry some things, and every year they have different types, and it's important, and you can apply.
My
Yes.
film was screened at Golden Apricot, and I was like not very happy with what was happening there. But I mean, yes, it can be a good platform for some, but not. I couldn't find like we can do anything with these people.
That's interesting to hear all the perspectives. And because
No, they have. There is some possibilities. Another question: can you enter? Can you? It's another question.
Yeah.
Of course, everywhere is big competition. Everywhere, many questions. But for example, Golden Apricot, it has this industry program.
It's very big. That's a lot of things that you said. It sort of like reflects the situation in Moldova itself, and that's why the Moldocs Festival. Let's say I was with them from 2018 to 2020, and during this period we try to sort of mirror more the needs of the emerging filmmakers that have very little experience, and also see what they're lacking. Of course, funds are lacking, but that's always gonna lack. But one of the things was the living in a bubble situation, and learning about the processes that the Western industry practices, because there's a lot of information that's a lot of professionals are gatekeepers of information, and only they know all kinds, like everyone is nodding, they know what I'm talking about, that like information that you're not privy to. And I was telling Yanis, I think I was talking to you, the example with the Swedish people.
Yes.
Yeah. I was in a workshop, they were like two Swedish producers, and the other's a Moldovan producer, fiction and documentaries. And we were talking about how we feel traveling to industry events in Europe, how sort of like alienated you feel, like I know you feel stupid sometimes talking to people because you feel like there is some information exchange that needs to happen, it's not happening, and you don't know the protocol how to do it.
Yes.
Exactly, you assume that you know because they travel from industry event to industry event. They are aware, everyone's aware of the same information, but we don't have the same resources that they do. And all the Moldovan producers were nodding. The Swedish people are like, we don't think so. We, a bit of gaslighting. Yeah, I don't think you're correct. I don't think that's, that's what you're feeling. I don't think that's how it is. The film industry, to industry or not to industry. I've been for the couple past years, I think mostly from 2019, I've been working more at the industry events, either that are only documentary or a combination of fiction and documentary. And also this has I like to be behind the curtains to see how things are happening and things like that. And it helped me a lot to understand the industry, and that's how I realized, there's a lot of things that, just like the surface that sort of like everyone knows in theory. But after, there's just a lot of connection, sharing that people are not privy to, and especially the low capacity minority countries, co-production countries. It's it's a bit hard to get the insight. That's why having a form of an industry event at a festival that you work at or something like that is sometimes a good idea. Not only to unify a place as a business place in your country, but also bring international experts to your territory, because they know a general idea. Maybe sometimes I met people, they have no idea where Moldova is. They do not know the situation. They don't know your realities. As much as they say they know, they do not. And this is an opportunity for them to really be there and see from themselves. That's why we are producer, cameraman, all kinds of, 5-in-1. And to understand also why the budgets that the films have in the country have those budgets, how it works. You cannot say that 120,000 euros for a documentary is a small budget. For Moldova, this is a budget of I don't know how many documentaries, and you cannot, it's a bit of a discrepancy between everyone's realities. And having also at Moldocs, this small industry part and inviting the experts here is also a chance for them to see the local talent, what they're struggling with, truly what they're struggling with. And also take part, usually CNC here has a round table on different topics. Last year it was about the need of establishing a film fund, and also preserving the archive. And those are serious needs that the local industry struggles with, and having also there's also a chance for the external experts, international experts, to try and get them to lobby for your causes in the country, if you manage to. Sometimes it's only in promises, but insistence sometimes works, taking no for an answer. Being having event is also a good point of reference for your local talent. And I think for this, local and regional talent. If you have a small event that happens, and here consistency is the key every year, independent, even if you have very low funding, a good idea even is to be online. Sometimes that counts too. Just being something on people's radar and being consistent with it. For example, in the COVID time, for Moldocs, it was an option either to do it or not to do it. And the funding was also not extremely good. And we tried to find solutions of what to do, where to do it in person with million tests online, and things like that. So we've reached a compromise. All the local experts were online, and the participants were outside Cahul in a summer camp very dusty summer camp with all the participants with a very bad connection, internet connection. But we powered through and we did it because, that's like the solution to, to bring everyone together and like to be this like point of reference, like this event is happening and I can meet experts that I usually don't have the chance to meet because it's expensive to travel from your countries to, I bet, to industry events. And also, if it's a good idea for an industry event, if you think of establishing one, to appeal as much as possible to the needs of your local industry. I also think future projections. You don't need really to mirror other industry events. For example, Emerald Docs, the pitching part, it doesn't have a cash prize for now. Because it's important for people, for young people, to go to the events outside Moldova, to meet people, network, see how it's done, the pitching, the one-on-one meetings. So they're like observers. That's sometimes it's a better position to be than a participant. Because you have almost the same resources, you just don't have the stress of pitching and doing the one-on-one meetings. Finding a niche, uncovering what it's missing and what is truly needed in in our local industry would be more useful, I think, for all parties involved. I can talk on and on, but I also wanna, a bit how the Moldocs model works. We adapted it and we found partners. That's another very important thing, the partners. We found them regional and partners that also can relate to our situation and are also aware of our history. And that's been quite good, quite fruitful, and a lot of projects, for example, that passed through Moldocs Lab, found co-producers through our regional partners, like Romania, Ukraine, Greece. Who else is there? I think that's it. So I share my time during the year between ITFA, when it's Mițvescu Production Forum, and this April I started to get involved into an event called Focus Asia, which is an event that tries to get together the European producers and the Asian producers. And it was my first time, and I was really impressed. The event takes place in a tiny city in Italy during a festival that's called Far East Film Festival, that it's already 25 years old and has an amazing audience that they watch only Asian films. Yes, and this event started, I'll show you a bit of pictures and I'll tell you about it. So I work at these 3 events, and all 3 of them have different capacity. Well, I'm also involved with Moldocs Lab. And all of them have different models of operating, and they're serving the needs of their industry and audience, and that works. I'm not covering ITFA. You can ask me questions. At ITFA, I'm in the industry department in the Docs for Sale section. We have 3 sections, which is forum, industry talks, that sort of, and Docs for Sale. But I'm gonna talk more about when East Meets West. I've been there with them since 2019, I think, and it takes place in Friuli Venezia, Friuli-Venezia Giulia region, and the city of Trieste. And it's close to Slovenia and Croatia, and it's just a very strategic city to have this event. And also logistically, it makes sense. for our event, and it takes place during the Trieste Film Festival. But to be honest, since 2019, I haven't seen a single film at the festival. Absolutely. Because it's quite intense 3 to 4 days of like industry things. And when we had the hybrid sessions, I think we started on Saturday. And all our events are in the same place in a hotel, that makes it easier. But I entered on Saturday and I exited on Wednesday. I haven't been outside. I just didn't have time because it was a hybrid edition and it felt like two separate ones. So it was quite quite painful, let's say. So it's a strategic industry event. That's the main square in Trieste, and we are in the hotel on the right side. And it has 3 airports nearby, which is very important for us because we share, and I'll talk a bit more about, we share hospitality logistics with the festival. We're not under the same hospitality department. We're a bit like separated. And they do a bit feel like 2 separate events, because we're like very maybe business networking oriented. This is our goals. We've been growing since 2010. And to be honest, the first event that happened, from what I hear, it was the head of the industry, the founder, and his coordinator. And they were doing, the 2 of them were doing the entire event. They were taking care of everything. They were taking care of hospitality. So our head of industry, he passed through all the departments. He did all the things. And he's like, oh, I'm sitting on a panel and someone is calling me to be, like, he hasn't been picked up from the airport, you know? And it's, they've been through a lot. And they have like different goals that like to serve these co-productions between East and West. And we have a lot of sections too, but mainly our section that we sort of main is the forum, where 20 to 22 projects are being pitched to an audience of 500, 700, it depends. During the hybrid session, it was almost 900. Which was like insane. But a couple of sections, like, I don't know if you're familiar with them, like The Last Stop Trieste, which is a work in progress section for documentary projects that have been like at previous workshops that are our partners. First Cut Plus, they do several things at the festival. They have a lab and they have this one. And this is it. This is it as a section that is managed by the festival and by us, by When It Meets West. And as you see, a lot of them, this is ours, the co-production forum. Then the First Cut Lab, Midpoint Shorts, Yave Slate. Yave Slate is Yave in itself as a company is a very strategic partner. They've been involved since the very beginning, and they have the slate has been introduced maybe 2 years ago, I think. It's initiatives to support European companies that are developing to 3 to 4 audiovisual works. And it's a bit like these new models. They learn about the new models and the new growth in the industry.
Well, I was part of Inspiration Lab this year.
Oh, you were? Oh, that's cool. I was just like talking about the inspirational labs. The inspirational labs, they are quite a recent addition to the program. They haven't been before, because these also they were made to reflect the needs of the industry. Like, we do a feedback form for guests, at the end, and this is like very like at the end of the event, and this is very important for us to do research on what the industry needs, and we do implement that, and this has been almost born because of this, and like to reflect how the industry grows. Yeah, no, it's the when it meets West. It's so yeah. Yeah, and also I forgot an important thing that every year the forum, like the editions, have spotlight territories, and every year, like for the spotlight territories, we have like various partners that contribute also financially and things like that. And these are our list of partners that we work with. And actually, the When It Meets West is organized by the Film Fund in the Audiovisual Film Fund in Friuli Venezia Giulia. And they have like different initiatives to try to boost the local, well, not the local industry, like the industry of co-production in general. And where was it? Yeah, these were like this year's National Cinema Center of Romania, CNC Moldova, Georgia, yeah, and Spain. There were a lot of them. And how we work, like mostly and it's a good idea, for example, if you think of doing an industry event at your festival, to not do it yourself all, because it's impossible, and working with partners, and you covering only a certain part of it. It can be logistics, it can be a monetary contribution, it can be the space, it can be anything, like to attract. It's much easier, and that's what we do. EAVE starts the program, like they start almost before we start the edition, like a day before. They do a think tank, like a very, very intense. Usually their programs are very intense. And then we have EAVE. Midpoint has a workshop. European Women's Audiovisual Network. They also do that. Who else? Oh, like here I have a couple. The Circle Women Doc Accelerator, they have their third module. And for example, they come to take advantage, or to do their workshop and to take advantage of the people that are attending the forum. But they have their own program. They can attend any of the events that we have, but they take advantage of the people present there. And it's a good idea. Well, for like them it works because it's a very like intimate event. It happens in the same building on 2 floors, and you usually stumble upon people that usually go to Cannes, but they won't have time to meet with you in Cannes. But they will have time to meet you in Trieste and have a cup of coffee, or stumble on the stairs or things like that. And we have like not master classes, we have interviews, presentations, and they're also done by partners. We just provide the space, the logistics of like hospitality and things like that, but they do the interviews with high professionals. And this is now how like one of our program looks. This was like the day before last. So it's like now it's very packed. It wasn't all like that. And we are growing and we're a bit bursting at the seams. So we have to rethink certain things. And another part important at our event that you can think about. But our head of industry, he's crazy, but in a good sense of crazy, like things that we are wary of, like we're like, we don't know if we like to try it or not, and he's like, yes, we're gonna try, we're gonna do it. And he's like thinking, because when he established the event, he was all the departments himself, so he knows how it works. And it's also a good idea for us in these countries. We know what happens in every department, but it's also a good idea to know. Like this year, we are only 8 in the team for the entire event, and our hospital manager had a baby, and she couldn't manage the high volume of work, so it was split between 3 of us in the team. So everyone was like doing a bit of it aside from the job that they had to do the hospitality. And let me tell you, it's the most unappreciated department at any festival, like truly. It was a hellish nightmare to arrange things for people. Like, I cannot tell you. I can tell you stories over stories and stories and stories. And now what I do, like anytime now I travel to a festival, I always send a thank you note to the hospitality department. Always.
I was a guest.
I'm sorry. Right?
I also do that.
And
Thank you goes to guest coordinate.
yeah, and I wrote to my colleague and I was like, I don't know how you do it, the entire thing by yourself every year. It's incredibly insane.
Yes.
And she's like, well, experience, because she's been doing it for a couple of years. Mine was only the first one. So a big part of our thing to keep guests engaged, because we are only in one building. Well, of course, we are not locking the doors and keeping them there. They can go and eat, and they can go and see films if they have time, or like things like that. It's like their prerogative. We have daily lunches that are usually either paid by us, like arranged by us, or maybe sponsored by someone in the spotlight countries, maybe. But usually they're like, this year we try to do more because the stakeholders, like the people from the spotlight countries, asked us to do sponsored drinks. And we're like, let's try it. And it worked pretty well. It's a chance for them to maybe sometimes introduce their local stuff if there's an opportunity. For example, Moldova was in spotlight in the Meet the Future section at the Agora market this year at Thessaloniki, and CNC did sponsor the happy hour, and they managed to bring from Moldova cases of Moldovan wine. And also when the consul from Athens heard about it, he also came to, for drinks and things like that. So it was quite well attended because everyone heard about the Moldovan wines. So this is another way to market your.
Trip last year, Georgia was provided.
Yes, yeah.
The white wine
Yeah.
is perfect.
Yeah, that's good feedback. And then we have lottery draws and games, and you're like, what does this have to do with the co-production forum? And we ask ourselves this question almost every year, but it actually works and it's fun, and it's a way to connect with industry professionals on another level, to be honest. And I'll show you some examples, and you're gonna, this happens in Trieste. So there's networking activities with a twist, which is mostly what I'm doing. Like this year, there were the Documentary Association of Europe confidential sessions. You sign up for the sessions, you know the time, you don't know the location, you know who you're talking to, and only the first 30 people. And you go in, it's very sort of type of exclusive thing. It's just to make it more, more fun, I guess. And they have a drink and just chat very informally about, whatever. And then we have the closing concert, which is one thing sometimes the guests look most forward to because it's 80s music. And it's our head of industry and his band. And it's absolutely insane. Let me see. Okay, 2021, that was our COVID time. So it was empty. It was, of course, online everything. And in Trieste, and most of the team was from home. Some of them were here at the hotel. the dancers and the band. And there were like 2 couches where people talked and then introduced the projects. Here is the tarot lady. She's a producer that's passionate about tarot, and she does private sessions on how to build your story or something like that. So it's like it was very engaging. And this is Manuela Bono. She's a sales agent distributor. Anyway, she's in Trieste, so that's why she's photographed from home. So she was giving a cooking lessons to people, to industry professionals. And then we had the lottery. Yeah, for example, here we had on Zoom. Zane was doing a cooking lesson. Participants eating already their stuff. Here is Pierre Alexis doing a magic trick. And then we had yoga. So all our guests had to prepare something, a recipe. But all these activities were also to encourage networking, but also they had an element that would simulate co-productions. It's all our head of industries ideas. So Pierre Alexis was doing a magic trick. So like they were like different sessions, and they had fun. So I guess that works. For us, like when we read first the concept and like to prepare it was like a bit, are you sure it's gonna work? But it was different because all other events industry events during COVID were like very formal meetings, like jumping from one room to another. This was like, different. Then came 2022, a hybrid edition. This is Alessandra Groplero, head of industry, and this is Alessandra Pastore. She's our industry coordinator, and she's also head of industry at Meeting Point Vilnius. And they're doing a lottery. So this edition, the concept was to do as much as possible with the environment. We had less guests, so we could concentrate on that. We had the partnership with a Italian platform called Tridom that works with businesses or like private and stuff like that and gifts trees, but not trees, like trees that have like a high percentage, like, they can absorb and, a lot of like CO2. But also the trees are planted by farmers. Like, for example, a mango, they can plant a mango, but they also can take the fruit for themselves. It's a whole thing. So we had 800 something guests, and it was the idea of every guest's name to be matched to the plant name, but not like normal, like mango, acacia, linden tree, or something like that. All the freaking Latin names, because you run out of like normal plant names, tree names after a while. So they did this, and the prizes were trees, or we worked with the local tourism, the region tourism agency, and they give us a spot to promote on our social media. They, to use the logo and things like that to be in our catalog and things like that. But they give a night, like 1 or 2 nights stay at a certain location in the region for the locals to get the region. A couple of our guests did go after COVID and things like that. Some are like remotes to the seaside and stuff like that. And then we had the plant concert. You touch the plants and they would emit sounds. I don't know how it works, don't ask me. But everyone was like touching those poor plants. Yes. And then we had the concert, like a mini concert. It's not the craziest one. Everyone was like distance with masks. And Dachau like live. So we are 8 people, and we work with a great team of technicians that like they're contractors, but they will always work at our events, and they are really, really, really good at their job. Who else do you work at? And we have 2 photographers that I think are decorations that they come. And also, I'm the only foreigner in the entire team, so not year round, but like more months during the year. And this is this year, which was like pretty pretty full. Who was you were and you were interested? This edition?
I wasn't. My producer were.
Ah, okay. Okay. It was, for me, it felt like it was a really packed edition with lots of things. Like, for example, like that picture is the confidential sessions with Documentary Association of Europe. And we had to redo the the arrangement of the rooms because they're like event after event after event. And this is Alessandro closing concert, and that's the usual vibe, all like 80s cheesy music. And of course the weird, again, we cannot without weird things, lottery. The concept of our edition this year was the Plinko game. So underneath here, there were what Edvinas is holding. He's holding a tree, like the sign tree. So you put the ping ball and whatever you get, downstairs, like bottles of wine from our sponsors or things like that. Yeah, a couple of pictures. I think this is from this year. So we usually have here the lunches and presentations. And this is our hybrid, everyone, that's me. So this is works for us. We work a lot with our partners, which and we do a lot of preparation before, which like saves us. We take care of like most of the logistics and things like that, and we get input on like the program. And like for example, this edition, next edition, I'll be working probably more with partners because like we're growing. But I usually do the sidebar events. And that works for us, and it's a good model if you want to open like even something small. I know IAVE has the change program, right? And they have a chapter in the country, so that's like a good starting point to have as a reference if they're consistent with it. So this is also a very important point, because then you're on people's radar. Like, we have this event and you invite international experts and you're like, oh, we hope to see you next year. And then, you are on their calendar, because some of the professionals, they do plan their, like, for example, at Moldocs, there were supposed to be more people this year. But because the dates was changed and it was clashing with some like sunny side of the dock, or like, national holidays or things like that. Yeah, so if you're on the radar, you're consistent with it, then, has the potential to slowly grow. And also, when I came at Moldocs, I also said this thing, and also I guess it reflects in, like, not to expect like a rapid growth or change, because with our mentality, it takes a lot of time and effort to get people to get used to the idea of this. And you're like, as you said, you come to a place, oh, this one like came, I left like 15 years ago, and like, who am I to come back and teach them like things? But then they're complaining that there are no opportunities. So I was like, I'm trying to come and bring you this, but you're like, you're seeing me as an outsider. Yes. So I think we're all struggling, I was like, with the same thing. But the key is just to, I guess, have patience in a way and be consistent with it, no matter what the form of it. And I just like want to go very, very, very quickly on the Focus Asia thing, because it was a model, and also a way, I don't know, for me it was like very surprising, and I'm always a fan of learning how things work and how people come together to all this thing. And it's it's a much smaller thing. And it started with a IAVE workshop that they did together with the Friuli Venezia Audiovisual Fund. And it's a workshop that connects the Asian producers with European producers. Also, they have 5 participants that are career participants. like festivals or maybe sales agent or distributors that want to know more the market, like the Asian film market, like want to know more how to work with films, how to present them to the audience and things like that. Like it's insane how, for example, there was a distributor lab, and how they struggle to market Asian films, and they have to appeal to cliches, which is a bit sad, like cliches and stereotypes, because that's what people are used to and they're like attracted to. And it's a bit, yeah. So they have only 200 professionals, 35 different theaters, and in Europe, but not only. It's I made a mistake. It's Asia. And it started with Ties That Bind 14 years ago. One workshop was in Singapore and one was in Udine. And now it's one in Taiwan and one in Udine. Yeah, doing Udine. And they have one-on-one meetings. Also, everything happens in the same place, which is very easy. So it's a lot of distributors, sales agents, and film festival programmers that want to learn how to market the Asian films. And this year, Europa Distribution brought, I don't remember how many, but distributors to talk about solutions. And there were distributors from all kinds of countries, and of course there was a discrepancies of how they work. Like Scandinavia is doing well and fine. I mean, they have, I don't know, they're like very innovative. They're like cinemas popping up like everywhere, while like Israel, Italy, and things like that are struggling to market the films. Yeah. So these were like a bit of like statistics from this year. And the panels, they were like quite interesting and like big, they're talking like producers or co-producer, like big films like The Lamb, like how do they, also the Asian parts talk about how difficult it is for them to distribute European films, certain European films. So it has to have a certain allure. And they were talking how they distributed the film Lamb in Japan. There was like an interesting example, what they use, what tactics they use, it was like fascinating, things that you absolutely are not privy to. Yeah, so here our partners, the partners are a bit like not as many as in when it's Midwest. And it's a lot like it's both Asian partners and European partners. That's like important. And every evening, each of the partners have, they sponsor again happy hour. That's where, as Yanis said, that's an important thing where business gets done. Truly, happy hours are good. It's one of the best networking opportunities. Yeah. Let me see what else I have. Yeah, it's how, if you do an industry event, how do you think about it evolving, like growing? And in all the 3 industry events that I've been involved to, feedback is very important. Not only external feedback, internal feedback in the departments, the team, every team. For example, at ITFA, we have several feedback sessions. We have feedback sessions one-on-one. We have the team, like the small team, the big team, and we have the venue feedback, like how it worked, how people found it, like what did you struggle with, what it worked, what didn't work. So that's why, for example, from last year at ITFA, we are redoing my section like a bit, like the concept, because what we saw, it's a bit like outdated, so we have to meet the needs and also reflect how people are doing business. Yeah, and how quickly they have to do it. That's good. That's good.
Like say held say like a car, And for them it was like also how it's going. They were asking us feedback.
Yeah. Because one goal of the industry at ITVA is to bring all the forum and docs for sale together under one market. Because in the past, the physical, like interior, they're together, but they're like they're in separate locations. So, you know, you'd have this separation that didn't really work. So it's a good idea to have them in the same building. And it was easier for some of us because, you know, for one-on-one meetings that we organized for professionals, it was easier to call a person. They're like, oh, I'm on the first floor, I'm on the second floor, come to the third or fourth, like, or the last one. So yeah, evaluation, it's important to feel the needs of the what's working, what's not working, and things like that. And like thinking really about the how like your edition went, and whatever metrics that you get, it's also good for your reporting and applying for grants and stuff, like a reflection of that. Past versus future. In some of like the industry events that I worked with, we're trying to get rid of like past practices, like of doing business that are very cumbersome, like they're very heavy and they don't make sense for the fast-paced industry nowadays. So we are trying, even with like the small things. Like at ITVA, we try to implement of not using the term decision maker, but using industry professional, industry representative. And also like being more decisive in saying no, and realizing, I think for all the events, when you do meetings or pitching or industry talks, thinking about who do you need to serve first. Like, you know, of course there's gonna be like an imbalance of like power in the industry and things like that, but like trying to like close it like as much as possible. It's a good idea. And to be honest, we tried some things at different events and industry professionals didn't like it. But you know, it's what can you do? It's you'll get used to it. You know, we'll do it again next year, and it's going to be easier. You'll already know how you're going to operate and things like that. And it's staying relevant all the time, like the program, not like repeating it. Like for example, at Moldocs, already there's like the feeling of some things being obsolete. Like some things need to be renewed or to be, you know, changed, definitely changed. Yeah. And don't copy paste or tailor, like don't copy paste, but tailor. That's what I meant. Not copy pasting events that you see about, just like getting inspired and tailor it. Like I cannot emphasize it enough. If you think of doing an industry event, to tailor it to the needs of your local industry. It's like very important. Even like here, when you think of audiences and things like that, you cannot think of getting audiences maybe into your theater, cinemas, festivals, as you do maybe in the Western part, because you a bit have to be tricky to appeal at their, you know, not heartstrings, because it's far to find them, but like especially in these areas, but appealing like sneaky things like nostalgia, but then putting something that's gonna, you know, push the boundaries or things like that, you know. Yes.
I think like that's what the main problem is maybe in our country. And I mean, we always try to copy paste, but we do not think twice whether like something suitable for the society that we live in. I mean, that's different in how you imagine your society to be, but it's totally different how it is.
Yeah. That's that's thing to learn. Like we still learn ourselves at all the industry events I'm at, because it's quite beginning to get more fast-paced. I mean, in that side, I mean, here it's a bit of catching up. Even in Moldova, it's a bit, and also here I feel there's a bit of everyone doing their thing, and it's hard to get them together as an industry. It's like really hard. And you'll see, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, there's a CNC roundtable, and nobody from the CNC is going to be there because they don't wanna influence and stuff like that. It's going to be a local producer moderating about the importance of associating, like creating associations, like Dolka, and there was like the Belarus Independent Academy and things like that. Like making a change. As I don't know who mentioned, I think Maxime mentioned, there's an association, but it's like a dinosaur. They just like pat themselves on the back, give diplomas, and like see you next month or whatever, and it's also I think that we struggle with in this side of the world is criticism, taking criticism. I mean, I think it's not like it's we try like constructing criticism, I'm telling you, like, for example, even if you I sometimes give feedback to local filmmakers. And I'm like, do you want me to sugarcoat it? Or do you want me like to really tell you, like, like don't hurry to like film. It's not something that has to be premiered tomorrow, like next month, or like, it's something gonna stay. Your subject is relevant, so don't hurry with it. And then I see that person premiering his film at the first edition student festival in the capital city, and I was like, shit, you lost your chance of a good, like, of making the world, like, of having the world know about, like, of something important, like a great experience, like great part of history. It's like missing this opportunities because they're not aware of how the industrial landscape works, like how you need to wait or
In
how.
Azerbaijan, after editing, they just put on YouTube and share it. Like, oh, I made a documentary about some guy, and please share, and everyone like getting like in Azerbaijan, in Baku.
But I think
he's like
because we also
already
don't know
famous.
how the productions are working.
Yeah, I know.
Because I mean, it was the first time I ever worked with French production, but before that, I was not doing that, but still I was not aware of how this works. Like all these stages of the working process, like I don't know, who knew that you should write the script, who knew that it's not only you who should film it, but somebody is coming helping you film. Then you go somewhere and you have an editor. Oh my god, this is like something strange is happening to your life, and then your film, like I don't know, your producer says, yes, I will send it to this festival, to this, and you are like,
Ooh.
okay.
Yeah, it's like
But you
another
don't
thing,
know
like
that,
knowing
like-
about the festival strategy. That's like, like me having to explain to young students why they need a film strategy for a festival strategy for their film. And it's a good idea because having a film strategy and, having a plan A, B, C, D, it's, you can predict to a certain level how your journey is gonna go, and also learn like what's like important. Okay, like here you are not invited. Sorry, invited. Then you're gonna move to the next one because this next one festival offers you this and this and this, and how it's like it's quiet, and they're like looking at me like I'm talking in hieroglyphs. It's a bit hard, and also there's no the patience to wait because it's a waiting game too. Yeah.